So this will be the last book that I read, and just as a heads up, I'll tell you about some of the people that we met or visited with, and some of the places that we went. We visited with Lincoln in Springfield, Illinois. We visited with Mark Twain in Hannibal, Missouri. We visited with Buffalo Bill Cody on the edge of the Rockies, and visited with Steinbeck out in California. We went to San Francisco. Drove down the Central Valley of California, across deserts, and went to Dodge City. And actually, there was a picture of Matt Dillon there. Went to the restaurant, or the saloon, the Long Branch Saloon, and just had a blast. So that was some of the places that we went, and there's pictures in there. And I'll show you a picture of the. There's a picture of the book. It's called Boomer Hundredaires Travel the West. And so in 1969, Jenny and I were young newlyweds with an infant. We were living in Dravosburg, Pennsylvania, in the upstairs of a large, somewhat creepy old house that overlooked the highly industrialized Monongahela River southeast of Pittsburgh. To catch the breeze in the summer, we would open the large windows in the living room, and we could hear the horns of the trains down by the river and the towboats on the river pushing materials up to the Claret works to fuel the industrial heart of the region, the steel industry. The rent on the apartment was a huge $65 per month, which I was earning by working in a paint factory in Pittsburgh while attending Allegheny County Community College at night. The earnings for the rent were augmented by playing drums for the occasional polka gig, paying $25 per night. Jenny was staying home, busily learning to be a mother and a homemaker. We had a portable black and white TV, which had been given to us by Jenny's great aunt, Gertrude, and her grandmother, Henrietta, and the TV station kept running a commercial for a local bank. The gist of the commercial was that if you could save with them, you would eventually become maybe not a millionaire, but surely a thousandaire. We had very little resources, and my joke was that I would have been very happy just being a hundredaire, hence the above title. We have traveled over the past few years and seen some pretty remarkable things and places, but we had not been to California and not seen the Pacific Ocean or redwood trees. We had planned on making the trip the previous year, but something came up and that didn't happen. We talked and decided that the time had come, and this is the story of how two boomer hundredaires and their dog set out and saw the West. On Saturday, 8/22/15, we were finally fully packed and ready to go by 1 o'clock. This is really no surprise. Even though we are retired, there's a lot to be considered in packing for a month-long trip. And since we finally decided to use the pickup truck instead of the Vibe, it took a lot of concentration to get everything arranged into the space that we had available. Off we sailed in the Silver Bullet, a 2002 F-150, pulling the just enough 2008 A-Liner sport trailer behind with our dog HD28B. We call him D for short, snug in his bed. We had set out a tentative route, but hadn't settled on any particular itinerary other than visiting with relatives in Idaho and Arizona and seeing redwoods, national parks, and the Pacific Ocean in California. We were discussing the route, and Jenny mentioned Springfield, Illinois. I knew that this was Lincoln's stomping grounds, so Springfield became the first destination. Jenny reviewed camping alternatives, and we settled on the Illinois State Fairgrounds, and it sounded wonderful. A low-key facility, friendly folks, and inexpensive. And that sounded like just the ticket. The drive was going to be long because of the late departure from mid-Ohio, but we thought it was doable. We drove along through the Midwest and all was good. My sister Betty texted that they were traveling and were at that time touring the Wisconsin State Fair and would be off on their travels after the event. The day wore on and we were getting close, and it dawned on me that Betty and Norm were at the Wisconsin State Fair. Now, Ohio does their fair earlier in the summer, so I didn't think about the possibility that Illinois could be having their fair, and the reference to Betty and Norm made me think, but it was too late to change our plans. On we went, and sure enough, the Illinois State Fair was in full blossom. In fact, we were just lucky enough to have landed on Redneck Weekend with the Demolition Derby in full raucous fury. We decided that it was too late to find another campground, so into the chaos we plunged. Janine was registering, and there was a family with young girls waiting at the camping office. I got out with Dee, and they wanted to pet him, so I handed around Cheerios to make him more sociable, and everyone was happy. It was dark by then, so setting up the campsite was tricky, but we prevailed, and after firing up the air conditioning, drinking a few beers, laughing at the situation, and eating a wonderful meal of our homegrown tomatoes on grilled cheese sandwiches, we crashed for the night. The hard sides of the camper and the air conditioning shut out the joyous cacophony of the Demolition Derby. In the morning we woke, fed Dee, and let him out to walk. Jenny met a fine, friendly boomer walking with his Havanese called Prince. Prince had very long, gray-black hair and a bow in his head, and he loved to play. He and Dee rolled and groveled in the dust, having a blast. The boomer said that Prince hadn't had anyone to play with since they left Palm Springs, or as he was more specific, Palm Desert, in June. He said that they do the reverse in what we do, in that they travel in the summer to escape the heat. He said that they had been full-time campers for 6 years, but now have a home in Palm Desert and travel. He was very friendly, and the dogs were enjoying themselves immensely and getting dusty and dirty. He said the Prince had had a bath yesterday and his wife was going to kill him, but he had let the dog have his fun. He was a really nice man. He finally put Dee into his crate in the air conditioning, and off we went in search of Mr. Lincoln. So that's the beginning of this story, and we did find Lincoln, and actually his grave is there in Springfield, and it was really fun. So I'm going to read a little bit more here, and then I'll be done. This is one of my favorite stories. So we met a young man by the name of Manuel, and he loved to talk about tea, but then he told us a story about one of his grandfather, Hugo Schnell. Hugo Schnell's story. Hugo was a young man during the First World War. He was a very patriotic German and also a Jew. He believed the propaganda that the Germans used about the enemy, and he was a fierce fighter. One day he was in a charge and came over a rise and shot a French soldier. The French soldier cried out in Hebrew, and at that time Hugo realized that the German propaganda was false and that he had just killed a fellow Jew. After that, Hugo's bloodlust cooled from fighting. He survived the war and was working in banks. Hitler was coming to power in the 30s, and the Nazis didn't like Jews working in banks because it was seen as a power position. One day, the manager of the bank called all the employees together and said that all Jews should step forward. Hugo stepped forward and was promptly told that he was fired. He got a job as a traveling salesman throughout Germany after that and could see what was happening to the country. He called all his family together and told them that Hitler was bad and that they should leave. They said no, they were good Germans and that Hitler would not harm them. The Jews had a history of being persecuted in pogroms, so Manuel said they had a practice of being prepared to leave in a short time. One night, the Gestapo knocked on Hugo's door, and he told the family to put all the money and the jewelry in the trash. The Gestapo let the woman carry the trash out, and she put the valuables in the trash container. The Gestapo searched the home, but did not find the valuables. In the morning, after they had left, Hugo retrieved the money and valuables from the trash. With what money they had, they bought a visa to leave the country on a boat. The family tried to board the boat, but found that the visa was counterfeit. They were turned away until a sailor recognized Hugo from the First World War and allowed them to board the boat illegally. They fled Germany, and the rest of the family did not, because they trusted Hitler, and the rest of the family died in concentration camps. The family went their way to Brazil and had a hard time getting off the boat because of the counterfeit visa, but eventually they left and made their way across South America to Argentina. This is where there is more to the story, but unfortunately I forget from there on. So Hugo Schnell, or Hugo Quick, as it is translated into English, managed to get out of Germany due to his quick wits. Manuel was very proud of the story, and I believe what he told me. We spent the day touring Yosemite. We began to see some places. All right, so that's the end of that, and we're done with that. So I hope you like the book. You can go and buy it. It's on Amazon, and all is good, and see ya.